Hello, this is Laura Susan Johnson, and this is Period Pieces. And today is June 21st, 2016. I'm going to do my then versus now review of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. A few moments ago, I did my review of Terminator Salvation. It was a first-time review of that movie, because I had not seen that movie in its entirety ever before. So this is my then versus now review of T3. I first saw T3 sometime, I believe, in sometime between 2010 and 2012, I think. And I reviewed it on the IMDb, gave it a pretty decent review rating of 6 to 7 out of 10 stars, I believe. And I think overall my opinions, my rating probably hasn't changed. The number rating hasn't changed. My thoughts about it, now that I've watched it a second time, I've had time to reflect and talk about it a little bit. And anyway, let me just start by saying the movie begins in sort of an annoying way. The characters begin kind of annoying. All of the principals, with the exception of Arnold Schwarzenegger, begin in a pretty annoying way, but they get so much better, and by the end of the movie, it's really quite a good movie, actually. Which is why I ended up giving it 6 to 7 out of 10 stars, and probably can still say the same about it. But the reason it won't get 9 to 10 out of 10 for me is because A, James Cameron doesn't direct it, therefore the feel of it just doesn't feel the same as the first two movies. It just doesn't feel the same. It's got let's see, who is it? Jonathan Mostow. Good director, you know, really good director, but it just doesn't have that same passion feel to it. Marco Beltrami, he does really beautiful music. I've heard his music in other movies, but once again, Brad Fiedel is the only one that can do the score for this series, as I call it. He can do the music so much. He gives it so much more of a personal feel, more metallic, more. He brings that humanistic quality out in the theme, with that metallic, inhuman quality in the background. It's just not, it can't be done by anybody else, not as effectively. The action sequences were awesome, special effects, great, awesome, you know. John Connor is played by Nick Stahl, who's a really good actor. It just doesn't feel like John Connor, not even when he gets stronger towards, you know, the end of the movie. He doesn't feel the same. He doesn't feel like the leader that we're supposed to respect and say, yeah, that's the guy. Even towards the end, I mean, it just didn't quite feel the right way. And I'm not faulting Nick Stahl for that, I'm just saying, it just, maybe they should have written the character differently, maybe they should have casted him differently, I don't know. But Nick Stahl just wasn't my favorite John Connor. Actually, I like Christian Bale more. I mean, even if that sounds inane as all get out. Yeah. I actually liked Christian Bale's John Connor better after I've seen Salvation. So that's weird, isn't it? Even after everything that's been said about Christian Bale, and after Christian Bale threw his tantrum during the production of the movie. Well, I don't care about personal things that happen on sets of movies. I just care about the end result. I don't really. I never really had much of an opinion about this supposedly, you know, temper tantrum. Some people just lose their tempers, you know, easily when they're working and they think that other people aren't cooperating with the work. So I don't care. If he was in the wrong, he was in the wrong. If he was justified, he was justified. If it didn't matter either way, to me, it didn't matter. So anyway, Nick Stahl, I liked him in a lot of movies, but, and he was actually good in this movie in a lot of respects, but it just didn't feel like the John Connor that you imagined, you know, that he'd grow into. Even after Judgment Day was supposedly, you know, averted, postponed, whatever, he still, I'll just say it bluntly, he seemed like a pussy at the beginning. He seemed like a pussy. You know, running from himself, running from his destiny, hating his identity, whatever. And he just didn't feel right. And then when he, you know, runs back into Kate Brewster, who is played by Claire Danes, and then the Terminator comes back into his life, and the TX, I don't want to call her the damn Terminatrix. I hate that fucking nickname, and I'll go into that. It's just another bunch of shit. But, anyway, it just didn't quite feel like that John Connor legend. It just didn't feel right. He felt like a pussy at first, and he grows a little bit stronger, and then, you know, gets better and better, but just still never quite captures that passion that I always envisioned. And in Salvation, he's better, and yet still sort of a peon compared to this Ironside character, which I already reviewed, and you can listen to my Terminator Salvation review if you want to hear more about that. Claire Danes is Kate Brewster, who ends up being John Connor's wife in the future. She was irritating at first, and I really like Claire Danes as an actress for the most part. Claire Danes did a good job. As the movie went on, she got better and better, and she got tougher and stronger. And since Kate Brewster is a character we knew nothing about prior to T3, I have nothing to judge her on prior. So, I look at T3 almost as the first attempt at a reboot, because, like I said, T1 could have ended the whole thing. T2 was supposed to end the whole thing. But T3 was just, you know, okay, let's do another sequel. So they introduced these new characters. The TX comes in and she attempts to assassinate all of John Connor's subordinates, team members, whatever they are, and she pretty much succeeds in doing most of them. But when she attempts to assassinate Kate Brewster, she isn't successful, because the good old Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, comes in and he thwarts that, and they're all on the run. So Claire Danes as Kate Brewster gets tougher. First she's really, oh God, let me go, you're kidnapping me, help, let me go. But she gets better. She gets really great. She does a lot better than, you know, Nick Stahl's performance as, or at least the way the character's written, as John Connor. Now, let's move on to Kristanna Loken. I liked her very much as the TX. But first, let's talk about the beginning. It's okay that she shows up butt-ass naked, because all of the Terminators and the one human that show up through that time displacement stuff show up butt-ass naked. That's the way that stuff works. Nothing inorganic will go through unless it's surrounded by a living human flesh coat, basically. Kyle Reese was the only organic human that went through it. Otherwise, it's been Terminators surrounded by living coats. So no problem. I don't have any problem with a little bit of female nudity. No biggie. What I did have a problem was Hollywood, you know. Okay, so she uses a little bit of wily stuff to trick a dumbass cop. You know, she inflates her boobs so that she can distract him, and then she probably takes her gun, and I don't know what she does. Does she kill him? Probably. I'm glad that she wasn't dressed in a fucking Catwoman outfit. I liked the red leather stuff that she was in. That was pretty darn cool. She was covered. She wasn't exposing any massive cleavage. She wasn't in anything with her midriff exposed. She was wearing high heels, but I guess that was part of that outfit that she killed that woman to get. That's alright, I can deal with that. I had a problem with something else that I noticed. Just the mannerism of her tasting blood to analyze whose blood it was. It was very sexualized. It was like she dipped it in her mouth as though she was getting ready to suck a dick. Why couldn't they have had her shape her finger into a syringe or something and made it non-sexualized? It was like they made this female Terminator almost, and then this nickname, the Terminatrix. Come on. Once again, okay, the inflation of the boobs, that was a little irritating, but now that I've seen this other stuff that they had this thing do, just Hollywood females, Hollywood, the female gender, it's just worn out bullshit, worn out gender stereotyping, just really boring, really tiresome, and it just makes me kind of like, I don't know, boring. I'm just relieved that they didn't dress her up as fucking Halle Berry's Catwoman. That would have been just the last fucking straw. Because that would have been like, okay, yeah, no wonder they call her the fucking Terminatrix. All she would have had, you know, all she would have needed is a fucking whip. So anyway, but Christiana Loken, I might be pronouncing her first name wrong, but I'm sorry. I think it's a pretty name, but she obviously studied Robert Patrick's T-1000 character very closely, because she does so well with the blank, empty facial expressions, the movements, the mannerisms, the very kinetic engineering, like the guy from Cheaper by the Dozen, the father. He was an expert in that kind of thing. Very efficient body movements, no waste of energy, that kind of stuff. Lethal, just the lethality of her character, just ruthlessly pursuing. Just a good performance. Aside from the first irritating shit that, you know, quickly passed. She, Danes, and mostly, you know, Nick Stahl. Out of all of them, Nick Stahl was the weakest one, I think, and I'm sorry to say that, because he's really a good actor. I don't really hate him at all. I just think that it wasn't the John Connor I was expecting. And of course Arnold, he's pretty cool. He does his best and he fights, you know. He's outmatched once again. He was no match for the T-1000, and he's certainly no match for the TX. But he does his darndest, bless his heart. So a few bombshells are dropped during this movie. The least among them is that Kate Brewster is John Connor's wife, and that they will have children, and that she's second in command. But there's like other bombshells that will be dropped. And I don't want to reveal too many of them in case you haven't seen it. I think it's kind of worth a look because it's really not. Like I said, you can't do worse than Jenna shit. You can't. And I know I promised I'd never rag on it anymore, but I mean, this is the last. I think this. Well, I mean, I'm going to be reviewing T2 next. I've seen T2 recently. I've seen the extended version of it, and I like it so much better as the extended cut, the director's cut. And I think I would like T1 so much better if they put in most of the deleted scenes. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me just get on with T3 before I go on to some other stuff. So the Terminatrix pursues the Terminator, John and Kate, through the desert. And then one major bombshell I will reveal is that Kate's father has a major plot hand, a hand in the plot. He's a big honcho over at, I guess, Skynet Defense, or I don't know. I don't know if he's he's not Skynet, but he's somebody who has a hand in either letting Skynet have full control, trusting it to run it all, so to speak, or shutting it down. And when the Terminator tells John and Kate all this stuff that is about to happen, if it's allowed to go ahead and take control and run it all, it's going to become self-aware. It's going to declare all humans its enemy, and it's going to start releasing all the weapons, and it's going to start releasing all the machines that have so far been built. And there's going to be a lot of shit going down soon. That evening. And it's like, what? This evening? So they sit there and they argue, and in my opinion, they waste quite a bit of screen time arguing about whether or not Kate's father should be salvaged, saved, whatever. And the Terminator is yapping at him about how it's not part of the mission, but Kate insists that they go save her dad, so they go and they get on the road, and I don't know what city her dad is in, but it's got to be a large city, and I would assume it would be Washington, D.C. if it's like the Department of Defense or something, right? Well, I guess it must be L.A. now, because L.A. is always where all these characters have been based, so I guess the Department of Defense is in L.A. I always kind of like, when I first saw this movie tonight, I was like, what? How did... no, I don't understand why they drive through how much desert to get back to her father. That sounds a little weird. It seems a little far-fetched. It is fun to get a look at the very first Terminators. They're called T1s, and they're these funny looking, they look like cartoon robots to me. They have these, like, one eye's blue, one eye's red, or something like that, and they kind of look like just these robots that you would see in 1950s sci-fi movies. Just roll around on big wheels or something, and they shoot, and you don't see any of those wacky-ass, tall robots that you see in Salvation, which is kind of weird. But you do see the T1s, you see the hunter-killers, you see a lot of stuff that's really cool that kind of takes you back to the first two movies, and that's good. I liked that. And you do see some really cool little extra things about something where Arnold talks in a black man's accent, which I thought was weird, but it's kind of this... I don't know if it was a deleted scene or just a little extra Easter egg they had on the DVD, but it was really, really bizarre. He didn't have the Austrian accent. He had a black man's accent. It sounded like a black military man. I don't know. He sounded black. It just sounded like a black person. And he was showing off the new T800s, and I'm like, huh? That's not supposed to be around for a long time. So that was a little weird. But it was kind of funny, too. It was fun, funny, but weird. So, I don't think it's a horrible movie, Terminator Rise of the Machines, number 3. I don't really think it's bad. It's just not number 1, and not number 2, of course. It's not the greatest. It's certainly not the worst. So I would still give it 6 to 7 out of 10. I'll be generous and give it maybe 6.5. I don't know. It's got a lot of problems. Oh, the way that the TX dies, the very last, like the finale scene, it seemed really cartoonish. She starts screaming like a cheetah, and she starts getting these wacky-ass CGI facial expressions on her endoskeleton, which I think that was so ludicrous. It almost just tanked the movie for me. It almost dropped it back down to 2 out of 10, but because I just was able to find so much favorable in it, I just, like I said, 6.5, I guess. I mean, I thought she should have just died when that magnetic thing, I mean, what happened? Did it deactivate and she was able to get herself back together? I mean, she should have died then and just stayed dead and let them go, you know, to their hideaway in the Sierra Mountains, you know. Anyway, that's my review for Terminator 3. Definitely check it out. It's not that terrible. Now, let me, if you want to keep on listening, go for it. If you want to shut this off and go watch T3, go watch it. I will review T2 the next time. That will be my last Terminator review, because I've reviewed, first I reviewed the Jenna shit, then I reviewed T1, I reviewed T-Salvation a while ago, now I'm reviewing, or I just reviewed T3. Tomorrow, or whenever I get a next opportunity, I'll review T2, the extended director's cut. I wanted just to add some notes about T1. I think they should put in, the tickling scene is not necessary. It's cute and all, but it's not necessary. Put back in the hot dog scene, because I thought that was interesting. As a matter of fact, it's not even in the novel, but there were some fans that said that Kyle Reese thought that Sarah Connor was talking about somebody killing dogs and cooking them and eating them. And you know how the Resistance loves dogs. They love their dogs because they let them know when there's Terminators around trying to kill them. When Sarah was talking about hot dogs, like when let's go to the movies or go to the baseball games and have hot dogs and popcorn, he thought they were that she was talking about killing dogs. It was weird. I don't know where they got that. It wasn't in that one novelization. Maybe it was in the other novel, because there's 2 novels based on the movie. And I forget the other author, but I've only read the one by Randy Frakes and Bill Wisher. Leave the hot dog scene in or put it back in. That's good. That's kind of a good, because she talks about, I want this to be over with. I want this whole thing to be over for you, for me. Nobody understands. I'm not in my world anymore. You're not in your world. We're all in this one world where there's just the 3 of us, you, me, and that thing that's chasing us, and I want it to be over for everybody. It was a good scene. I liked it. They were fixing their pipe bombs and stuff, and it kind of gave you some more, it's like more of a pair bonding time between just them being in the motel making pipe bombs, and then just suddenly, you know, well, not suddenly, it wasn't sudden, the whole thing was building up to it, but I just thought it was a good moment for them to talk. I mean, Disneyland and the beach, it seems silly, but, you know, I don't know. Just things that he has no concept of any of that. Tickling scene, leave it out. It doesn't matter. It's not necessary. The scene where he cries, because he's never seen flowers before. That should have been left in. Some people say, it makes him look like a pussy. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It just makes it all the more understandable to people that if you live, I've said it a million times, if you live in a post-apocalyptic landscape, you don't see flowers, you don't see grass, you don't see streams, you don't see trees, you don't see anything but a bunch of black shit. What other scenes? The wholesome Sarah scene's okay. I mean, leave that out if you want to. That was in the book. And I guess, you know, leave anything out. I mean, it just seems like a lot of scenes, if people don't get to read the novel, there's so many scenes that they chopped out that could have been left in because the novel is so rare. It's probably not in print anymore, but I think you can find it on eBay. I know you can find it on Amazon, but it's so expensive. I paid $40 for a paperback, and then I had to leave it behind. I didn't mean to, but I just packed my bag so hastily. I just went off and forgot it, along with a lot of other books that I wish I had back. So, anyway, the T2, which I'll review next time, the extended cut, very similar to the extended cut of Aliens by James Cameron. T2 and Aliens are both so much better as director cuts because they have so many scenes that just flesh out the story so much more. And Terminator 2 is one of my favorite examples of a movie made better by the director's cut, by added, restored footage. So anyway, I think I'll shut this down now. For the record, I like Terminator 3. I don't love it, so to speak, but I do like it quite a lot. 6.5 out of 10 stars. See you next time when we review Terminator 2 Judgment Day.